Hi, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Welcome back. It's lovely to see you again. Today, I don't think we should beat around the bush here, because today, in looking at that bush, maybe some sort of creature or rodent or other thing from a wonderful house called Zoologist. We're both
Yeah.
huge fans of this house already, aren't we, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen our videos, we've talked about quite a few of fragrances from this house. In a way, it's such a good premise. It's just one that can kind of run and run and run. You kind of got this idea of fragrance with the name of a creature. It doesn't necessarily smell like the creature. Often it smells like the habitat.
No, thank God.
Yeah, but there's such so many possibilities, and
Yeah.
I think one of the other really, really great things about this house, which is maybe not talked about quite as much, is the fact that Victor Wong, overseeing everything, is just handpicking the most interesting perfumers in the world. And
Yeah.
it's so often that we
He really
think,
cares, doesn't he?
yeah, and so like lots of up and coming perfumers, and some kind of more established ones, but people who have already kind of push the boundaries of fragrance. I mean, there are lots of perfumers that we like: Sarah McCartney, Bryn Lomros, Antonio Gardoni, loads and loads of them doing really, really great work. And we've got some more here. So here's a question for you, Joe. So I think I've maybe said to you before, if you were gonna, what do you think the next good animal would be? But I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to think, who would you like the next perfumer to be for a Zoologist fragrance?
That's a good one.
I've thought about this. I mean, I can really see Francesca Bianchi doing one.
Yes,
I think
I would have actually said the same. I think
it'd have to be Sex Panther or something like
that. The real thing. Why not? I mean, unless that's copyrighted by Anchorman. I mean, another person I would have suggested, Francesca is absolutely top of the list, would actually be another one from Antonio Gardoni. I'd want to see what else he can do. I think for T-Rex to be his last will and testament for Zoologist would be a shame. But yeah, Francesca Bianchi, I can't even begin to imagine. And she works in Animalics. Liz Moores as well.
Yeah.
Something.
Or even wonder if someone like Sultan Pasha could be tempted to make a first, a perfume which contains alcohol as opposed to just an attar. That'd be interesting as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so if you've seen our videos before, it's House We Loved. We discussed them before. I think between us, we've bought Dodo, Rhino, Hyrax, Civet, Beaver, T-Rex,
Rhinoceros.
Yeah. So we bought quite a few. So
it's a big old house, isn't it? Big old amount.
I bought us some samples of Koala because I really liked the sound of it. Thought it'd be interesting to try, and Victor kindly sent us a few more samples. So we're trying. We've got 5 animals for you today, which works out.
And these are the most recent.
The 5 most recent. Also quite relevant as well, because if you saw one of our quite recent videos about an Art and Olfaction Award nominee, there are 2 more Art and Olfaction Award nominees. The first 2 we're going to look at here, which are Squid and Bee. So should we stop talking and start spraying? Got to look at.
Let's start sniffing.
So this.
I'm going to put Squid on skin again.
Go for it. Squid is one which is up for an award. I've kind of gone 180 on this, but then possibly 180 again. Anyway, so the first time I tried it, I tried it in a shop and I was trying lots of other things, and I didn't like it. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why in a minute. Anyway, so this is one of the $165 ones for 60 ml extrait. B is the only one after these, which is the higher price bracket of $195. So the perfumer is Céline Barrel, and she is an IFF perfumer. The only fragrance of hers I really knew was Tacit by Aesop, which is kind of about 4 or 5 years ago.
Good stuff.
Anyway, so Squid. When I tried it in the shop, I was put off by pink pepper and incense. Pink pepper is one of those notes that I struggle with a bit, just because I associate it with kind of quite designery kind of fragrances. You get it in quite a lot of Giza Schöner's fragrances as well, don't you? Pink pepper, and it kind of put me off initially. But
Yes.
I'm really glad that we had this sample, because I found a lot more in it when I got it work. I mean, when you first spray it, this has been here a while, but you get this this ink, this dark ink, straight away.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel it almost doesn't take me in the way of a squid. It makes me think of, you know, a fountain pen and like being at school and spilling an ink cartridge all over my pencil case and it getting all over my hands. You know, that smell of ink, which
that's
is
a great smell, isn't it?
It's kind of dusty as well, and it's kind of dry, even though it's a liquid. And salt,
quite gothic in a sense as well, actually.
Yeah, it's that kind of dark. I guess it's great because ink is something you associate with a squid, but it also makes it think of a dark. You know, a squid is right deep down in the bottom of the ocean, and yet there is the sparkle of this pink pepper and incense, which gives a bit of kind of brightness, a bit of the kind of the shimmering water. You get a lot of salt. The salt kind of lasts quite a long time.
That stuck with me for longer than most of it, actually.
Yeah,
the saltiness. I just perceived
really kind of, and you really feel that this kind of sense of olfactory storytelling it's really quite vivid, and especially when I smelled it close up on the skin, I really got that story, and I was really excited about it. On the card, there's a little card. He also kind of talks about the story, and he talks about the environment, obviously, which is deep in the sea. But there's quite a well-known, I don't know, trope, if you like, of the battle between the giant squid and the sperm whale. You know, I'll put a picture up here, but this one of like interlocking the giant squid kind of wrapping its tentacles around the sperm whale. And it's interesting when Victor first released some of the artwork for the project, and people were guessing what it was. Lots of people said, "Oh, is it going to be sperm whale? Is it going to be an ambergris fragrance?"
He should do that.
But the answer is yes. It's not sperm whale, but I get this kind of ambergris vibe in here. It's not real ambergris. He doesn't use real ambergris. I think it's quite a good impression of it, quite a good representation of it. I certainly get the kind of musky, salty, being out in the sun kind of effect of it. The more it went on, I found this to be a really long-lasting fragrance. It projected quite a lot and lasted really, really well. The more it went on, I felt a lot of those things which interested me in the beginning. You know, the kind of salt, the ink. They kind of stepped back a bit, and I was still aware of this incense and a bit of myrrh as well, and a kind of just not necessarily ambergris, but more of a slightly kind of generic musk. And I got a bit bored of it, I have to say. This is my kind of, you know, I said I did a 180 twice. This is my kind of second 180.
It's a 360, yeah.
And because I wasn't quite
But I know what you mean.
Because I wasn't quite sure of the 180, I got actually sprayed at my wife as well to try and smell it at her at a distance. And I did find I didn't get quite so much of this exciting storytelling, you know, when I was at a distance from her, you know, a few feet or whatever. And I did feel that there was something safer. I mean, I say it's not. Yeah. I wouldn't for a moment say it's bad. It's also on this notes list. There's solar salicylate, which, you know, I think that's not as immediately identifiable as some of the other notes. But I think it might be benzyl salicylate, which was something which was used initially used in suntan lotion, sunscreen, because it blocked UV rays. And it was used in Ambre Solaire, which is one of the kind of first famous suntan lotions. And it was then, after they found other things to replace UV blockers, they decided to keep it in because the smell people associated with suntan lotion. And so it's a kind of a smell you associate with suntan lotion. And I kind of get there's that slightly generic, musky, slightly kind of floralness to it. Anyway, I'll stop talking, Joe. Sorry.
Do you know, I'm with you actually. I have to say, the first time I smelt it, I say this with love for the brand, and I don't mean to be mean. When I first smelt it in store, I was really underwhelmed, and I thought it's just a sort of approachable, slightly sweetened incense with a bit of an ambery warmth behind it. It like a much better version of some of the things you'll find in the designer shelves. Same concept done better. I think now, having worn it quite a bit, it's much better than that. But I still find it doesn't sort of keep the promise it makes at the beginning. You know, the pink pepper and the incense are very sparkling, and then I think, what else does it have? And it maintains this salty purr, and it has a certain warmth to it. But for me, I find the sea quite a dangerous place, and I would like a little bit more danger, a little bit more rough and tumble. A bit. I know it sounds a bit vague, but
I completely agree with you, because you get some suggestions of something really quite exciting.
I could take a bit of shipwreck or something.
Yeah, maybe even a kind of a kind of like a metallic, like a rusty metal thing, the kind of thing you get in Beaufort a little bit. Because they do that kind of like shipwrecked sea salt in a slightly more dangerous way.
That's it. In its own right, I think it's a perfectly lovely perfume. And of course, every house should have perfectly lovely things.
Yeah.
But
it just feels...
for a house like Zoologist, I expect something really daring.
Yeah.
And really cutting edge. Maybe it's technically cutting edge. I mean, that's something we need to consider. Maybe there's something in the technique by which it's been put together that is really out there. I mean, but we're talking as consumers and fans and perfume lovers. And I find it just, maybe it's the pink pepper in the opening actually that's just, it steers my mind in a direction that I can't steer it back from.
Yeah.
It's why I also have stayed away from quite a few of the Almond Jane fragrances, because I just, pink pepper reminds me of that. Yeah. And Molten Brown has a pink peppercorn fragrance.
Yeah.
And I used to wear that shower gel, and now I'm like,
yeah.
It's like slightly intrusive. It's an intrusive sweetness.
Yeah.
I like a sweetness that comes from within rather than on top.
But that kind of lingering, cloying, and also it's just something kind of
it's a bit involuntary,
over familiar about it as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's up for an Fraction Awards.
It's perfectly nice. It's perfectly nice.
Is there anything you could say more damning than perfectly nice? No. Right. On that note, let's move on to the second Art and Olfaction nominee, B.
I'll never be allowed in Bloom again.
This is B. So this is another one that came out last year. Cristiano Canali. So he's another IFF perfumer like Celine Burrell. He did Romanza from Mask Milano, as well as a few other things. Nice. Anyway, I'll let you. I did a bit too much talking last time.
No, but you're far more eloquent than I am. So,
talk to me.
I've worn all of this, but I'm going to give it a bit more juice. I have to say, this one, I'm a really big fan of. I'm a really big fan of this, and I think it's that old word that keeps cropping up for me all the time, but vintage. It has this slightly vintage edge to it that I really like, and I think to make a sort of honey-based fragrance that I don't find cloying and annoying is quite a feat, and I'm not quite sure how he's done it. I think it's that sort of orange rind and sort of spice in the beginning, but it's sort of if you like in cooking, if you've got something that's going to be too sweet, you add something to offset it and to balance it. And I think here the sweetness of the honey is offset by like these gingery aspects in the opening. Reminds me of Egypt as well for some reason.
I completely get that. This is another one. Interestingly, when I first sprayed it, I didn't like it. I found it.
Really?
I found it saccharine. I found it too. I just found it too sweet, and also not just the honey too sweet, the kind of orangey blossom, almost kind of like marmalade. I found it. And it's,
marmalade. That's a good example.
Difficult not to compare it to a fragrance, but when I first sprayed it, I just thought. My first thought was this is no way near as good as Slow Dive by Hiram Green. which is a honey fragrance I own, which is so thick and deep, and I also love the florals in that. But it's that word that you said right at the beginning. It's this kind of vintagey feel, and for me, I really enjoy this after about half an hour or so, maybe even a bit longer. And you get it's just those florals delicately kind of swimming around in the middle, and I definitely think there was heliotrope, but I got almost a Guerlain, that kind of floral swimming around. I mean,
it really does have that feel, doesn't it?
That's always the highest praise, as opposed to something of
that's
safe.
Absolutely
the highest praise is kind of Guerlain, and I love it. And it came, and when I got that, I really
orange as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like fresh orange grove.
But you're right to say, I think, orange grove, because when I start to smell things like that, I don't smell just a pot of honey. I smell the bee buzzing around in a beautiful garden on a really hot summer's day, with the flowers, with the orange blossom and the orange trees, and then it becomes much more interesting. And
it's kind of addictive, this one, for me.
Absolutely.
I keep going back to it.
And there's also the way, I don't know what else, I don't know if there's another musk or something, or if it's just the way the beeswax works, but there's just a nicely, slightly animalic feel to this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's just some slight hint of funk.
Well, that's it, exactly. I think this is the kind of thing for Zoologist, because it's perfectly lovely and perfectly beautiful, but it's also quite daring, but quite subtle with it. Like you say, this subtle animalic funk going on underneath.
But I think it's clever.
I mean, it must be these musks.
In a way, there's a kind of a sledgehammer of honey at the beginning, a sledgehammer of sweetness. But then there's much more going on, and it feels clever and well executed, and really good. And if I were a judge and I had to pick between these two for on Olfaction Awards, it would be bee every day of the week for me. And I surprised it, because on first spray I thought, oh god, I find the first 10 minutes I don't enjoy. I find it too sweet. But who knew? Really good stuff.
It just once you get beyond it, I think it has a lot to say. And I'm scared of bees. I should point that out. I'm really terrified of bees.
Bees are great. Wasps are bastards.
They are great. We need them.
But bees are legends.
Yeah. Well, actually, if I ever learn to drive, the first thing I'm going to do is try and run over a wasp. I don't know if it's possible.
But don't chase it. If it's like up around your eyes, don't try and chase it. Right.
They don't like it.
So here is
what's next on our list?
Here is the one, Koala. This is the one I decided to buy the sample. I was excited. One of the reasons I was excited was because it's Spiros Drosophilus.
Yes.
As the perfumer behind Baruti. He also used to be a neuroscientist.
Great.
Or maybe
still really? I didn't know that.
We've talked a lot about, people coming from architecture or different disciplines to come from neuroscience. The perfume is an interesting one. And Baruti is, brilliant. Is it a Berlin im Snow? Which is a beautiful...
Berlin im Winter, yeah.
Yeah, im Winter, yeah. Which is a beautiful kind of like boozy, plummy, comforting, amazing.
And they do a really good chai fragrance as well that I've loved.
Yeah, well, it was interesting, saying the chai thing, because this has some really interesting notes on it, which kind of attracted me. Lots and lots of green notes, but also this tea thing. I'm always looking for a kind of a great tea fragrance. This, I've got to say, the first half hour of this, for me, it was magic. I really loved it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my notes. Here's my book where I read from.
Absolutely right.
You get this eucalyptusy menthol thing,
so unique,
as you would completely expect from a koala. Almost medicinal, bright, bracing, wakes you up, opens your eyes. It's green. It teeters on the edge of medicinal, but never quite gets there. And there's just a hint. There's also like a mintiness of geranium. I definitely get that kind of mintiness, which I also like. I quite like, because the geranium makes it, steers it in a slightly classical way. Do you know what I mean? It makes me think of a kind of classical fragrance, which I enjoy.
It's got a nice sort of bright fougere nod.
But then soon I get this really exactly what I hoped for. This really lovely tea note,
Yeah,
which is both
very lovely.
green and dark. If that it may sound like I'm contradicting myself,
Yeah,
but the way it works, I feel it kind of plays with the greenness and makes me
absolutely.
think of a jungle, makes me think of green leaves, which go with the eucalyptus. But also, it feels as if it's got a kind of slight black bitterness, which counters that.
Well, I think different things prop different things up. So the geranium, the brightness of the geranium and the tea is propped up by some incense.
Yeah.
And the darker notes, I think, I'm sort of propped up by some of the bass.
Yeah.
The woods and things.
Yeah. And there's
a slight paper smell as well. You know, do you get that slight smell of like brand new textbook or something?
I kind of
I'll
know.
never know what that is in perfume, but I need to figure it out.
But you also there's a fair amount of sweetness going on as well.
More honey.
I think there's honey nowhere near the same dose as the last fragrance, but there's still some of it. There's mimosa.
This is sugar-free honey.
And the mimosa, I've said this before. Sometimes I get a stick of rock. You know what I mean? Like unless you're British, you won't know what I'm talking about. I'll put a picture, but it's basically something you used to get on the seaside, which is a long, basically solid sugar, but it's normally slightly minty. And sometimes with mimosa,
I bloody love those.
Yeah, it's such, and I really get it as a specific image. I also get there's carrying on that slightly sweet, not kind of a sandalwoody thing, which kind of carries on through to the end. And what is weird is that all the things which sound, we said like eucalyptus, menthol, geranium, which sound bright and summery, I don't actually feel it's a bright, summery menthol fragrance. I actually find it very cuddly.
No.
As you know, he's a cuddly little guy. Like,
they're quite cute.
I should have expected that. And I say that I feel the tea just keeps things in check for the first half an hour, 45 minutes or so. After that, about 45 minutes to an hour, I do find that the sweetness continues to increase and the tea steps back. And so what you get is this menthol and sweetness. And I do get a slight cough syrup vibe to it. Or like
which is interesting.
It's interesting, but it really made me. At the beginning, I said, "Oh, it was good that it wasn't medicinal," but I did feel that it starts to go a little bit, not even medicinal, but kind of like gourmand medicinal, if that's even a thing. But I started to get cough syrup or some kind of throat sweets,
Calpol or something.
Yeah, Calpol, and I felt lots of the excitement at the beginning seemed to go. And the other thing with this is, I'm not someone that I'm not obsessed with beast mode fragrances or at all, but I did find, I tried this a few times and I tried spraying on my wife as well, that after about 2 hours, I could hardly smell anything at all. I really felt that it kind of became a very, very close skin scent from about 2 hours, which I was slightly surprised with, given the notes. We're not talking about something which is all delicate florals. There are some things which I would expect to have some body behind, but after the first half an hour, I was ultimately disappointed by it.
I found absolutely the same. It lost its substance a bit too quickly.
And it was, as I said, this is the one which I bought the samples of. I really liked, some of the fragrances from Baruti. I think are really, really good, really interesting, and I like the notes list. And I liked the first half an hour, but ultimately I was quite disappointed by this. I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't spend my money on it. I mean, I don't know if
I think it just needs, for my nose, it just needs a little bit more of everything. And I know that sounds really sort of stupid to say and very.
If the tea somehow carried on. I mean, I guess maybe tea can't be a very
ramping up with some of those key aspects.
Yeah,
it's quite minimalist.
Yeah, but I think it
Koala's quite
promises
small, I guess.
that the first half an hour is so exciting. I think it promised a lot, but ultimately, a bit
Yeah.
disappointing. Right. Next is
Next.
Sloth. So if you've
Yeah.
seen our channel before, you know we are very familiar with the works of Pryn Lomros
Yes.
and very big fans of his. So,
We really are.
when we found out that he was doing a Zoologist fragrance, we were, of course, excited. Joe, I will leave you to chat about this a bit.
Well, I have to say, I really love this. I think this is pure Pryn all the way. I mean, it's bursting with his personality. And again, I mean, we have this interesting connection with Koala because this is another tea
Sloth.
aspect, at least.
Sloth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in relation to Koala having the tea as well, you've got this big chamomile.
And they're similar, like I think
going on.
They're a kind of similar, kind of like almost similar size and similar kind of cozy fuzziness, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got to give myself another spray there. I mean, it's lots of real, realistic vegetation going on here. All these bright berries. It reminds me a little bit, actually, of the thing I love in Dodo, which is the lychee. And it's not. I mean, it's not the same here, but
I've got to say, I love this. Like
big lavender as well. Big lavender.
I love the fruity, like the juicy berry. It's not blackberries. It's acai berry.
Goji berries or something? No, I've not. Acai berry. Yes.
Acai berry. I don't know what that is. But
never tried those.
But it's it's a slightly kind of blackcurranty, but it's so juicy and what's great about the kind of juiciness that it's immediately backed up with some kind of weight. There's kind of there's a kind of hay and mossy kind of feel all the way through.
That's right.
In a way, what I kind of like about it may sound a weird thing to say, you might disagree, but it kind of feels, it's quite wacky in terms of notes, but it feels, as is often the case, I think, with Pryn, incredibly classical in structure. You almost feels like you've kind of got like a sheepry structure with like kind of berries at top and mossiness at the bottom. And also, and as you said,
I love that violet as well in the beginning.
It's really, it's so, you get the jungle so vividly, don't you? And this is, as opposed to Koala, which is slightly drier, there's much more kind of popping, kind of juicy, exotic things going on.
Yeah. I'm starting to get some things now that I didn't get the other day, like a really big fennel licorice thing, even in the opening. Just starting to burst its head through a little bit.
And you get definitely
very interesting
tea. I think it's chamomile tea in this, and which I guess, I don't know if that's just supposed to be a play on the kind of sleepiness of a sloth, or to make you feel like a sloth. I feel
it's what they drink before bed, isn't it?
It balances with that bright, energetic fruit, doesn't it? Also, the other thing, and I couldn't work out what was doing it, and I texted it to you. There's something which feels quite funky in this, and he doesn't really list. I mean, maybe it's cumin. I can't really see what else could give it, but there's or mushroom. But I felt there was just an animalic hum at the bottom of this.
There really is.
There's kind of loads going on here. You've also got kind of jasmine, which has got some like thick, sweet, and just makes the whole thing feel a bit richer. As I said, there's a kind of mossiness underneath it, which is backed up with a bit of kind of myrrh, and like there's some more kind of resin. I don't know if there are any resins. It says frankincense and myrrh. At the bottom. Maybe it's.
I think it's interesting. Adam, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say maybe it's marigold that adds this slight funk. Do you know?
I'd be really interested to know if he's just done it with the use of sort of florals and things. Then I think it's really clever to not rely on an oud or a castoreum or something.
Yeah,
I think it's really clever, and it's pleasantly animalic as well. It's the kind of animalic you want to keep burying your nose in. Oh, well, that's us. We're a bad example because we like all sorts of filth. But
as you
I think it's eminently approachable.
it's it's just in a way it's so prim because you feel there's so much going on. There's this like real dense complex, and there's like a load of ingredients, but yet it kind of feels slightly kind of classical in structure. And as you say, it's approachable. Like I don't think anyone's going to find this disgusting, but if you're
No.
people like us who are interested in something slightly challenging, there's a lot there for your nose to explore.
Yeah, it's a really brilliant perfume, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, when the next Ardenol faction come round, I think this thing should be top of the list. I really do. I think it's a really brilliant fragrance.
So, should we move on?
Jungle.
So, on the topic of art and olfaction, so I think I'm right. I've just had a quick look, but I think in the past that they Zoologist have been nominated for Elephant and Civet. I think were nominated.
Yeah.
A previous winner was Bat.
Yes.
Which came out a few years ago, and was it Ellen Covey? Is that her name?
Yeah.
From Olympic Orchids. So this has now been. They don't use the term reformulated. They say new design.
Which we were discussing, weren't we? It's quite an interesting turn of phrase.
Yeah, because it's not. It's not just a reformulation. It's not just something which has been tweaked. It's actually been redone. The fragrance has been completely redone, and
possibly a new design on the front as well, I think.
Yeah, possibly. I can't remember what the old design is, but interestingly, I didn't realise this, Joe. But Ellen Covey has released the old formulation under Olympic Orchids. Is it called Night Flyer?
Night Flyer.
Yeah. Anyway, so
which is the same thing as the original.
Yeah. Whereas this is
what we're excited about.
Yeah. So I think this is quite different. So before we had this banana damp cave kind of incredibly original, quite striking. Not everybody liked it, but if you liked it, you loved it kind of fragrance.
Yeah.
This
is very different.
This is different. From the outset, you kind of get this bright kind of passion fruity. What is it? Yeah, passion fruit. Fig and guava. Yeah. It's like
a really beautiful tropical juice.
Absolutely, it's really hint of umbungo. Remember umbungo? Yeah,
absolutely. Umbungo. They drink it in the Congo. Yeah. Good song.
Completely like politically inappropriate kind of 80s fruit drink. But I'll put a link here.
Do they still make it?
I shouldn't have thought so. Anyway,
I hope not. Tasty though.
It's quite juicy, fruity. I mean, there is kind of woodiness behind it, and it's hint of. So the original Bat had this amazing kind of damp cave feel. And
banana as well.
Well, I found
sort of banana skin or something.
That was the main fruit accord, wasn't it, in the original Bat? This kind of banana, whereas here we have a fruit cocktail. Before it was just a bit more direct. And it's interesting because Prin has done soil accords a few times in his previous fragrances. But here, I don't know, it feels that the soil accord is muted. Maybe he wanted to get away from the damp cave thing slightly of the original Bat and put his own stamp on it. I've got to say,
are there different kinds of bats? I mean, this is another question. Are there bats that dwell mainly in caves, and there are bats that dwell more in a sort of jungle setting? I mean, I genuinely, all I know about bats is that they're causing a few problems at the moment around the world. But
yeah, I mean, I guess he doesn't talk about a cave. He talks about hints of damp soil and vegetable roots, and the leatheriness of the wings. So he doesn't talk about a cave. So that's perhaps why. It suggests that it's a new design rather than just a reformulation. It is a slightly different idea and slightly different brief, so quite a different fragrance. I've got to say, as someone who is, as big a fan of Primrose as there can be, I don't like this. I find it. I just find it a bit dull. I guess you can't help but compare it to the original, and it's not as interesting. It's not as bold or striking as the original. It just kind of,
Agreed.
It sits, and it's also it's got things in common with Sloth, but just nowhere near the kind of scale of brilliance as
Oh,
Sloth.
yeah. I mean, Sloth is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you know,
yeah,
this feels again like Squid. It feels very well behaved and very, very safe. And it's perfectly good. It's a well-made perfume, no doubt about it.
but I mean, if you smell Sloth and
Yeah.
Bat together, this Bat feels like a teenage boy, whereas Sloth feels like a complicated, you know, worldly man. Well, maybe you want to
Yeah.
smell like a teenage boy. Yeah, not that
It's
it
Burt
sounds.
Reynolds versus Justin Bieber a little bit.
Yeah, um, yeah. I mean, yeah, Bat. It really doesn't do anything for me.
I have to say, I mean, I've worn it a couple of times, and even weeks ago before we got these, I'd tried it. And normally with Zoologist, I have a pretty good routine of I either love it immediately and I have to have it, or I'm not quite sure, but I think I like it, but I'm not bowled over, and I come back to it and think, wow, actually I do love it. But with this, it's been, and then
Yeah.
again, and then even putting it on now, it's not inviting me in.
No, it's just I'm not really having any emotional response to it. Rather than, yeah, I mean, it's fine.
No.
I would, yeah, if forced, I would wear it. Of course, it's fine. I mean, as I say, if you watch our videos,
But then smell B. I mean, smell B again.
yeah,
And you see, it's not about subtlety or about nuance. B is very subtle and very, very delicate in its way, but has some real personality. I find Bat feels slightly middle of the road.
How would you put if you're going to do these 1 to 5? Where would you do? What would you do your 1 to 5?
1 to 5. For me, Sloth is number 1. I love that. I think that's a really wonderful fragrance. Number 2 is B. Number 3 is Squid. Number 4 is Koala. Number 5 is Bat, I would say.
I almost the same. I would put Koala above Squid for me because I love that. I love that Tina, and I love the first couple of hours. And actually, to be honest, I might swap Squid and Bat because I don't know. There's just something about Squid. I just don't know if I could wear it. At least Bat, I found less offensive. There's something about Squid where that designer. I don't know. There's something which just it jars on me a bit.
It's that bloody pink pepper for me at the beginning.
Yeah.
it sort of promises something interesting, but then you realize actually it is just a really nicely crafted designer style thing. And I know that sounds horrible. It sounds snobby, and I love designer fragrances. I've got lots, but it's safer than I would want from Zoologist, and I think Bat is too safe.
Interesting that,
but they have to have them. I can understand why.
So Prin Lomos, whose Sloth we loved, but whose reformulation of Bat, new model of Bat we didn't love, is doing a new version of Rhinoceros.
Which is one of my favorites in the world.
Big, bold, boozy leather, real smack around the face, like gentleman's club. Wow.
Absolutely awesome. And all that rum, just pints of rum on hot leather. Fantastic.
I mean, and obviously it's being reformulated because of difficulties with ingredients, and potentially it could be the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah, totally.
We'll have to wait and see.
I'm interested with the reformulation for something like that. If you have a different perfumer, it must mean that you want to redesign it. No, I mean, a question for Victor maybe.
Yeah,
why would you hire someone else to reformulate something that has been made already?
Yeah, I think there are kind of things. There are kind of complexities there. Maybe the materials weren't there because of regulations or prices, and so they weren't able to. And maybe they felt it would compromise it, and so it was easier just to get somebody else to completely redesign it.
Yeah, and Prin is wonderful. So I mean, my God.
Yeah. We shall see. But anyway, so if out of the first two, the Art Novel Faction nominees, I would say B every day of the week for me.
Yeah, I think it's really lovely. I mean, That thing now on skin is absolutely beautiful.
It is.
It feels like
It's-
something 100 years old and just
And
perfect.
that's what's clever, I think, because you start off with this planting the idea of the bee with this big overdose of honey, but then you've got all this classically beautiful delicateness to it as well, which is really clever. Really, really clever. Really great perfume
Classy
making.
stuff.
Marvelous. So if you've tried these,
Wonderful
if you've got
house.
some, I mean, it's a house.
We know it.
I will always try like everything from this house. I'm always
Yeah,
interested to do, and I think what Victor
absolutely.
Wong has done and continues to do is an extraordinary achievement and has made an extraordinary mark on
Yeah,
niche perfume. It's kind of niche
totally.
perfume. It's everything you love. It's brilliant perfumers doing wacky, interesting things, often with a
Yeah.
classical structure behind it.
It sets the bar up here for everyone else, doesn't it, really?
So if you've got any favourites amongst these, let us know.
Yeah.
Until next time, happy
Bye.
sniffing.